It works. Okay. Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to day 3 in Cannes. I hope you're still holding up. Welcome to our panel this morning. We're going to be talking about challenger brands at speed. Delighted to welcome our distinguished panelists with us here today. To my left, Jen, do you want to introduce yourself very quickly?
Thank you very much. My name is Jen Garbach. I am the Chief Marketing Officer of PNC Bank.
Małgorzata?
Małgosia Lubelska. I'm the CMO for Asahi Group, responsible for Asahi Super Dry brand globally.
Caroline?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Caroline Gardner, and I lead brand marketing and experience for The Real.
Excellent. So we're going to be talking about challenger brands this morning. At a time when the world and our industry is moving from disruption to disruption, it's interesting to note that it's not necessarily the biggest and the legacy that stand out, is actually the boldest. No? There's a sort of almost Darwinian law to that. And we've got actually a cross-section of Havas clients with us today from creative, health, and from media. And we're going to be exploring in our chat over the next 30 minutes, 35 minutes, in terms of how challenger brands are reinventing brand building, okay? So let's jump right into it. The first question is actually the three of you. What sets a challenger brand apart from market leaders and niche brands? And can each of you very succinctly share what makes your mindset, drive, and behaviors unique? Jen?
Well, first I'll say, when you all think about challenger brands, I'm sure the first category you think of is banking. So yes, that is us. PNC Bank is the 6th largest bank in the US, and so we are up against large national competitors and outgrowing our roots as a super regional bank. And so we really live by the ethos of we need to punch above our weight. We do not have the luxury of brands and the size of team that competes with the big nationals, but that's exactly who we're going up against. And so I think something that distinguishes challenger brands is really understanding what your superpower is and how you can lean into that in a really differentiated, amplified way.
We'd love to hear about your superpower later on. Małgorzata?
For me, the challenger brands, they have specific DNA. They are born, created out of the need to do things differently. They are here to change, to drive change, to challenge the status quo, to change consumer behavior, to shape the categories. And they are not niche. Let's make no mistake here. If the brand idea is rooted deeply in the consumer understanding, those are amazing, sizable business opportunities. And let me give you a couple of examples. Tony Chocolonely, that's the brand that was created with the purpose to provide a fair trade choice for consumers. It's now the market leader in the Netherlands, shaping the industry and expanding globally. Fever Tree, another brand, premium mixer, they had the dream to provide the premium mixer to the expensive gins that consumers buy. And that's the market leader now in the UK that invigorated the soft drink business, and it's expanding again globally. So you need to have this unique mindset to drive change. And Asahi Super Dry, this is a brand like no other, and we have two important characteristics. First, it's a unique taste. So it's inspired by brewing sake, and it's like no other lager. It gives you this immediate refreshment without the bitterness and the heavier aftertaste of many other beers. And then it comes from Japan, and Japan is so much culturally relevant now across the globe. So just, again, building on your superpower and sticking to your true story, that's an amazing ingredient to shape the future of beer.
Very inspiring. Caroline?
Yeah, I want to agree with what Mal and Jen said about challenger brands being about doing things differently. And so at The Real, we wanted to take sustainability head on. We love luxury goods, we love fashion, and we wanted to build a most sustainable future for fashion. So we're all about changing the way people shop for the better. We are a luxury re-commerce platform operating mostly in the United States. We have a wonderfully, slightly addictive app I encourage you all to download it and have some fun. But we believe in personal style. We believe that the creativity and the craftsmanship of these luxury products should have many lifetimes, right? That doesn't just have to be the one time I choose to buy it and own it and love it. I can pass that on to someone else when it's their moment to love that item and enjoy it. And that's what we do. And we're really proud of how we're helping shape the future for fashion and keep these beautiful items out of landfills.
So I find it super interesting to see how you're able to articulate your superpower and how you stand out. Can you maybe now illustrate very concretely with a case study in terms of how that innovation and disruption comes to life? Jen, do you want to start?
Sure thing. So we relaunched the PNC brand just over a year ago under the banner of Brilliantly Boring. And that was on the insight of financial services as a category has been anything but stable and reliable over the recent past. And that is at the core who we are as a 160-year-old brand. So Brilliantly Boring translates in a hyper-resonant way both today, where you've seen recent bank failures, challenges, and people want to know that where I am parking my money when I go to the ATM, when I go to the bank, it is there. And it really creates these fun opportunities for us to demonstrate how boring is truly essential to allow all these brilliant outcomes in your life. PNC has a number of different sports sponsorships. And so one of the fun ways we've been able to punch above our weight is to amplify those sponsorships. And we have started a content series called Boring Before Brilliance. And what we do is we partner with great athletes through our sports sponsorships, and we help tell that story of kind of the dedication to the boring, mundane training, the regimens that are behind the scenes that don't get all of the glory. So we've done that with our IndyCar sponsorship, with our PNC Championship sponsorship. And what you see on the outcome, right, for these athletes are, the winning lap at the Indy 500. You see the championship trophy at the end of a golf tournament, but what those players put into their training and dedication, and it's the parallel of all the focus that we put in as a bank to the boring, routine ways of making sure that we are making banking really accessible so that you have access to your money to do the brilliant things you want in your life. And so that's been a great content extension that's allowed us to be resonant and tell that story of boring in a really powerful, differentiated way.
Wow, I love this idea of boring as the USP when it comes to a bank. Absolutely, love it, great. Malgosia.
Let me maybe refer to the product innovation that we do. And Japan is a hugely innovative country, and Asahi is an innovative company. So we, of course, want to offer consumer innovations and relevant brand experiences, yet we always know we need to stay to our true superpower. So we have this unique, distinctive taste profile. We know it's a killer in beer industry. We know it's preferred by younger consumers, by females. It's really perfect to go with food. It leaves you ready for the next sip, next adventure. So we will never compromise on that. So whatever innovation we put out in the market, we really made sure that this taste profile, the characteristics of the mother brand, that's reflected in the innovation. And then we go across the board and we understand what is the consumer experience that we need to offer. So we have a huge commitment to drive the low alcohol and no alcoholic beer, to make it cool and to make it taste differently. And that's in line with the active lifestyle. So we make huge investment, both in terms of the brewing process as well as in communication to make sure we drive this moderation trend. And that's Asahi 00, which is available for consumers to have a no alcoholic choice, or Asahi Dry Crystal. We are about to launch the fusion variant, the flavored variant of Asahi Super Dry in Australia, and we just added a hint of yuzu, a hint of tangerine, just to make sure that this taste authenticity is really preserved. Another example is this super innovative, we call it the Namajoki can. So it's a can which is giving you the perfect draft experience any place you want, at home, in the park. It's basically you take this cold can, you open the lid, it's self-filled, so you can drink out of the can and it's like a glass. And then when you warm it with your hands, it's producing the foam, yeah? So it's an amazing fresh draft experience. It's available in Japan, in Korea, in Taiwan, and New Zealand, and we will be progressively launching across other markets. But it's truly innovative, yet still making sure we stick to this unique taste profile, which is a unique brand proposition.
Oh, fascinating to see how tech disruption actually, drives the USP here. Caroline, a concrete case to illustrate how you go about it?
Yeah, I think one of the most important parts of being a successful challenger brand is knowing what you do uniquely well and how that's important to the consumers you're working with and servicing. And for us, that's about our authentication process. So every item we sell comes into our possession. We have the most rigorous, in-depth process for authenticating every item on our site. And we wanted to call attention to the importance of that if you think about the world we're all living in. So we invited our customers to join us in asking ourselves what's real. And so if you think about the broader cultural context, AI, fake news, and then how that plays into the world of the real is, of course, the authentication of all the handbags and fine jewelry, watches, ready-to-wear we sell, and the rise of fakes and dupe culture. And so we are getting more and more fakes sent to us every day. And we wanted to call attention to how that's changing the industry. So we decided to open actually what you see behind me on the screen here. It is a fake store that never sold a single item, that never officially opened its doors. And if you were to actually zoom in a little bit on that, you would see the language that says, ask yourself what's real. And it would say Monday closed, Tuesday closed, Wednesday closed. And the whole point being that we do not stand for the sale of fake goods. And at the bottom, you'll see a QR code and says, always open. And that took you to our site. And it was just an incredible opportunity to express what we stand for, but where we share in the experience our customers are having of constantly asking ourselves what's real all around us all the time, and perhaps nowhere more acutely in terms of the luxury world than making sure every item we all own is authentically representative of the craftsmanship and the creativity that went into producing it. And so we had a ton of fun with this last summer. Actually, we just anniversaried it. This is the week of the anniversary of us opening that. We were open for a couple months. And it was just a great way to call attention to what's happening in the luxury landscape right now, but in a way that felt very authentic to the real.
Excellent, excellent, wonderful. Let's talk about speed and agility. At a time where markets evolve so incredibly fast, where consumer needs evolve so incredibly fast. Talk to us about how speed and agility are actually so really important for more nimble players, compared to those legacy established brands. How that actually plays into your hands and how you think about it.
It's interesting. At PNC, we actually have a tension. If we are a 160-year-old brand who is redefining our future as a challenger brand, so we've got kind of both ends of that spectrum that we're dealing with, right? So we're trying to teach that agility, and I think with our new Brilliantly Boring platform, it's allowing the team to filter our brand through a new lens and find those topical moments that are happening and how we want to participate in the much more, active conversations that are happening, but we're actually retraining that muscle. We are not inherently wired, and as a bank, we're not meant to be wired to make really fast changes. So it's an interesting tension that we're working through culturally right now. But I'm also eager to hear from you guys if that's similar or different.
For me, the speed is the way of working for the team, but also we expanded to our agency partners. So we have recently appointed Havas to lead our Asahi Superdry global development. And of course, they blew us away at the pitch and the idea was so amazing. But then the way we work together to make it happen, and we just celebrated the first 100 days and the review has been mind-blowing. But they are willing to commit the time of the senior leaders. Mike Williams was hopping on the plane with me to go to Tokyo to meet with the senior stakeholders to sell the story, to explain our point of view. Tam and the strategic leadership, they were joining us in market workshops in China, in Taiwan, in Hong Kong, in the United States, to make sure that they understand the local business context, that they meet the local teams, that we define together the jobs to be done, and that investment into the trust, the partnership, making sure you understand the brand, the business, it's allowing you to move at speed. So after 100 days, we are progressing to land our first core creative idea into production, and touch wood, it's still a lot of hurdles, but it's been testing amazingly in a few markets, and we are so super excited about that.
Super. Caroline?
Well, that was fun.
This is speed illustrated acoustically.
I was going to say, rev your engines. So for us, I think you can't really dictate culture, right? You have to co-create it in the modern world. And the only way you can do that quickly is to build a team of diverse and really culturally connected, curious marketers. So curiosity is one of the key things I filter for on my team. I really like to make sure we have a good roundtable of individuals who are connected into different pockets and different communities that are relative to our world. And then we host weekly dialogues and brainstorms with each other about how we can participate authentically and organically in culture in a way that makes sense for the business. And I think that's the only way to do it quickly right now, is to inherently wire your team to be connected and curious and then thoughtful about the times that you decide to participate.
So, Jen, I'd like just to come back on this subject of agility when it comes to a bank. I mean, you were saying we've been around for 160 years, and we're standing actually for a bank that's going to be around for the next 160 years. Now, how does that fit into a vision of agile marketing? And talk to us about a bit the sort of tensions that you need to manage there.
Yeah, well, it's if you really think about the core of banking, you have to understand and appreciate that that foundation of stability is meant to say we shouldn't be reacting at a whim, right? We are a regulated industry and we need to respect that kind of governed entities that we operate under, but that shouldn't hold us back from being able to engage in a highly relevant contextual way with folks. And so with our new kind of brand platform, like I said, it's not only retraining like internally how the team thinks about talking about banking, it's creating a new conversation in the marketplace. And it's uncovered this need state of folks who are looking for stability, for empathy. And so it's as much, I would say, about us like reacting and responding in an agile way as it is introducing a new flavor of a conversation of what you can expect from your bank.
And Karen, you were talking about how important it is to fit into the cultural conversation today of being authentic and being good at storytelling. And that's not something that we've necessarily historically been very good at in terms of marketers. We've been curating a lot of content, but this authenticity at times has been a challenge. Can you talk to us about very concretely how that comes to life in the real?
Yeah, so authenticity, as I mentioned, is probably the number one value for our brand. And so to land that, you have to be very clear about who you are and who your customers are and where those conversations or overlaps, shared values make the most sense. And so as we think about how we continue to build on that conversation I was saying the other day, there's a certain amount of objective thinking you kind of have to bring into the room, right? Because we go in with these brainstorms, you have a diverse team with a lot of cultural creativity and a lot of different communities they're tapping into. And you go in there with a lot of passion for ideas you have. But someone else, if you're not open to it, they can't help you make it better. And so that's a big thing that we constantly work on in our team, is how to sort of come in with a lot of passion and excitement for your idea, but then be open to ways that individuals in your world can iterate on it and help build upon it and make it even better or more relevant in multiple communities. And the psychological space, I think, for that to happen has to happen fast, right? Because you got to move, especially in social, which is where we do a lot of things. But that space is what got us to we launched a Substack platform. I don't know if anyone's using Substack. Quick show of hands as a brand. Love it. As a person, come on. wait, really? Guys, you got to tap in. It's great. So I love Substack, and we actually launched earlier this year in Substack an individual called The Real Girl. And the real girl is none of us and all of us at the same time, but she's an actual character. She's, if you think sort of like Gossip Girl or Lady Whistledown, some of you may know Bridgerton, but she's talking about fashion. And we joke that she studies the resale market the way that some people study the stock market. And they're a little fancier than me, and they're probably somewhere else on the beach. But I would say that this has been a great opportunity for us to tap into different cultural markets. We did it really fast. Like, we just kind of moved on it, and we started saying, hey, this is actually a place we should be in. Let's go ahead and experiment, and let's go play with it. But you have to have a safe environment for your marketers to bring that idea, evolve that idea, and then take the risk. And, you know, if it had been terrible, we probably would have just not kept posting and sort of quietly backed out. But I do think you have to be invited a little bit into the space. And so one of the reasons the Substack idea went through was we were like, you know, we're getting so much organic conversation in Substack already. It felt like we were invited into the room, right? Like, we didn't just decide to launch a Substack. We saw our brand sort of existing there, and we're like, oh, we should maybe pull up a seat to the table and like grab a beer. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think that's
really
really
interesting what you're referring to, which is this idea of being welcomed into the conversation rather than just finding your way into it.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Malgosia, storytelling and authenticity at SI?
For us, it's really about authenticity and consistency, and aligning the brand DNA with the consumer insight and rational and emotional brand benefits. So for us, it's all about being unique and explaining what that means to consumers, starting from the unique taste. And here the complexity is that we cover a broad range of markets. So unique taste and how you express that, it can be very different between United States and China, Taiwan, or Hong Kong. So it's about expressing the brand idea in a way that resonates in the local language, because it's not only about English. It has to work in Japanese, it has to work in Mandarin, in Cantonese, in the languages that I have no clue about. So this is about empowerment and trust, about openness to work with the local teams to make sure that we find the most relevant expression of the brand in a uniquely consistent way. So everything that we do, it has to be the same brand world, the silverish, shimmering, progressive look and feel of Asahi brand, so that you build those memory structures. And that's super important when you have smaller budgets and you have to punch above your weight, and you need to be much more effective with every dollar that you spend in advertising.
It's an interesting consideration here. Yet another dimension when it comes to culture and authenticity is managing multicultural. Now, as a brand, being consistent with what you stand for in a manner that resonates with unique cultures. Jen, storytelling and authenticity in a bank?
You know, it strikes me as we're talking and kind of threading this with driving speed and agility. We had as much work to do establishing the challenger brand and building buy-in internally before we were ever able to externalize Brilliantly Boring, right? We operated for 58 of those years with a very kind of nice behind-the-scenes brand. And so a lot of the storytelling we needed to point internally at the team to help everyone see that a platform like Brilliantly Boring is in fact a manifestation of who we are. And we think about all the different audiences we had to connect with across our executive team, bankers, folks who are interacting with clients firsthand. That's one of the things I'm most proud of in our journey, is actually building that cultural momentum. And I think that was the first signal that we were onto something really powerful, is when our team latched onto it and they're like, we are proud to call ourselves the Brilliantly Boring team in bank, and then be able to bring that to market. And the way folks respond to it in that very kind of refreshed, like, oh, we haven't heard a bank talk like this before. And so we can be buttoned up with a suit and tie and deliver, you know, stable, good banking relationships. And we can have some fun and some personality and play with that. And I think that's been a really fun part of our journey.
So you're a CMO that has a mandate to lead a cultural revolution, basically, in the bank, yeah? It's really
I
interesting.
think so.
I think that's happening. So that we recently did the same, and pulling on two threads. You were talking about empowerment. You were talking about culture. We actually just relaunched our culture in the same way, and it was actually about empowering our people to really love the brand the way they were already telling us they were, and it just kind of like gave them the tools to do that. We heard so much internally, and I'm sure it's the same as you. People were already going there as our employees, but they didn't feel totally empowered to do it. So we relaunched our internal culture as a means that actually we set out new values, which are 4 reals, REALS. And our team just, the only way to express it is they beamed. Like they just received it so fast. We hear it all the time now. And the reaction was, I love this, right? Like I was so ready for this. And I will say as a leader that felt great because then you're like, oh, phew, we did this right? Because no one wants to absorb a value that doesn't fit them. But when you kind of land it, you're doing exactly what you said, empowering them to be who you knew they already were.
And I've got a follow-up question for you, Caroline. We talk a lot about personalized marketing here in Cannes. It's very much the talk of the week. Leveraging tech and data to be just more relevant with people. Can you just share with us how The Real is going about it?
Yeah, so the best thing about The Real, I happen to think, is that if every single one of you in this room opened the app right now, you would find your own journey. We don't algorithmically prescribe. We let you sort of choose your own adventure, and we help and we support and we provide curation in a way, but that's sort of the fun of our app, is that it is a little anti-algorithm, because I think we are all constantly served up what the world thinks we want, and we think you should choose what you want. And so you can open up and you can go down a curated selection that we're helping enable you with, but you're going to find, Jen, a completely different path than Mal's going to find, than I'm going to find. Stefan, you can also go on there. And we have great men's stuff, just saying. And so I think that feels right for our brand, because we're not trying to prescribe to you. We're trying to sort of enable you to be your most authentic self and express your personal style.
This resonates so much actually with the theme of the panel, no? We're challenging brands. We do anti-algorithm positioning. It's just absolutely great. I love it. Jen, how about you in the bank? How do you think about personalized marketing when it comes to clients?
Super important, and we're early in the journey, right? So the theme you keep hearing, right, is the notion of we're not on a speedboat where our agility comes from like fast left and right turns. We're a cruise ship that has to methodically be turned and set in the right direction. And I think part of that, embracing the challenger brand mentality, saying with our limited resources, where are we directing that? And so massive investment in our tech stack to be able to do that. And then again, building and learning that agile mindset of, all right, how can we go to market with offers that are much more personalized, but we're building the capabilities, we're building the skill set, but no, that's exactly where we need to be. So another reason we're so excited to continue learning from folks who are a little bit further ahead in the journey, but we've got a ways to go.
Super. Malgosia, I've got a question for you about communities. Having advocates, building community around the brand is just so incredibly important, just in terms of amplifying the impact of your communications. What do you think about it in Asahi? How do you go about it?
Yeah, we do that a lot by leveraging the partnerships, and for us, it's super important to make sure that the partnerships that we have, they really work super hard. So yes, we sponsor the Men City Football Club, and that's obviously an amazing club. And yes, we tap into the 1 billion Man City followers globally, and we make sure we give them merchandise, we give them the limited edition. But that could have been done by any sponsor. You come with a big budget and you can buy it. So for us, it's super important. How do we align the values of Manchester City of being an innovative, unique football club with the values of the brand? How do we make it culturally relevant? So it's not that we just do regular tickets and merchandise stuff. We took the top 3 players into the streets of Tokyo. We let them experience the subcultures. We let them try and immerse in the Japanese experience. Think about reinventing the game, reimagining how they play based on the tradition, and that's an amazing footage, and it's almost like an authentic, real story immersed in the Japanese culture, but related to the brand values of the Manchester City, and that's an amazing leverage. And of course, being on the training kit, it gives us the amazing branding opportunities. The same we do with rugby. We are the proud sponsor of the World Cup Rugby Men tournament. Was an amazing opportunity for Asahi Superdry to accelerate in the UK, to launch in France. Yes, that's the sport that the Japan loves, and they are very proud of their team. But we want to align how we talk about the rugby with the unique brand perspective. So this year we are just about to start the campaign for the women's rugby. And then we are taking a look at rugby like never before through the women's sports, through the ambassador that we are partnering with in the UK. So again, how do we find this uniquely relevant common ground between the brand and the sport and the passion point? And yes, we are tapping into the billions of community and followers of rugby who will watch the game, but we want to do it in a unique way with the cultural perspective of Asahi Superdry. So the campaign will start soon in the UK. Please follow.
And Malgosia, you're wearing sky blue today. That has nothing to do with Man City?
It's a little bit different pattern, but I'm sure we can fix it in post-production, and AI can do it really well.
Caroline, talk to us how you make your consumers advocates for The RealReal.
You know, it comes down to offering a great product and experience. I think sometimes brands get really focused on the stories we're telling or the logos we're creating or the campaigns we're putting in market. But, you know, in every brand I've ever worked on, I previously led global brand for the Ritz-Carlton, and one of the key things I took out of that experience was just the simple fact of delivering an incredible experience. That's going to organically drive your word of mouth in a way that you can never pay for, right? You pay for that by creating an incredible team that is empowered to deliver exceptional results. And that's what we do at The RealReal. We really try to make every single one of our luxury concierges that go into homes incredible at supporting and partnering with our consignor base to deliver the best supply and build the relationship with the brand as a trusted partner in managing their wardrobe. And it's the same thing in our sales associates, right? When you walk into a store, are they educated about the brands? Can they help serve you in a good way? And that's just driven a lot of word of mouth for our brand in taking us into social, right? People kind of organically choose. That's actually how we chose to go into TikTok. We weren't there, and everybody was just talking about us because they had a great experience with the brand. And so we said, oh, hey, we should be here too, and we should have some fun with this crowd. And so we've taken a very entertainment approach to TikTok. But it all came from the experience and people being excited about working with The RealReal and having a good product.
And Jen, how about PNC customers? Are you looking at them in terms of making them advocates, and how do you go about it?
Absolutely, and it all starts with empathy and delivering on a human experience. It's what's at the core of the brand, and that is our superpower, is the empathetic human relationship. I'm going to go ahead and venture a guess that unlike maybe when you get your luxury handbag or have that cracked open refreshing Asahi, you don't get quite the same dopamine hit when you open your checking account. But when you go into a branch and you have a need state and a banker is able to help you solve a need state, or you do have an issue and you call in and a thoughtful, caring expert in the care center helps resolve your issue, we are building advocacy. We're building advocacy through the experience of a seamless digital experience. And then we're amplifying that now with this new kind of fun personality that we get to wrap around it with the brand.
Super. And I'd like now to end on the last question of our conversation here, which is the elephant in the room. When you're a challenger brand, you're not the biggest brand, okay? And your resources are not going to be unlimited. How do you make, out of this constraint, an opportunity when it comes to be addressing the competitive field around you? Malgosia, you want to start with that?
Well, I think, again, we go back to the three good elements. It's authenticity and staying true to your story. It's consistency, but also the creativity. You have to punch above the weight. You cannot afford to be dull or boring. Dull is very expensive. So I think the opportunity for us is that we can be bolder, we can be more creative. There is less risk because the brand is still small, but then you can really go and do something which you are really proud of. You create culture. You are showing up in pop culture with your relevant story, but then it makes you so proud to find and shape that experience instead of just buying it. It's born out of necessity. I just cannot afford to go to Champions League or to partner with amazing properties. We have to invent it our own way to make the brand unique, interesting, to give consumers those interesting stories that they will share over a glass of beer. But that's amazing because that's the currency of the modern premium. You want to have an interesting life more than to show off and buy into the culture. So that's something really authentic which the brand can credibly address, and that's super exciting.
Karen, how do you address this tyranny of limited resources? How
I like that framing.
Yeah, right. My team jokes with me all the time that I'm really good at rating the couch cushions. So if you think about it, we all have our budgets that get set, but don't tell them this. I have like a little secret pot of money on the side that I just sort of hold for those moments where someone in the brainstorm is like, we should go into Substack, or things like that. We're all marketers. We're always A/B testing everything, and why not A/B test those kinds of things? I think there is some amount of risk tolerance that as a challenger brand you get, and I do think it's different to do what Jen's doing, right? Like I used to work on an iconic legacy brand, and the permission you have to be a little bit more of a challenger when you are the newcomer in the room. And, the resale industry didn't even exist really in a digital space, right? There's tons of resellers in high streets everywhere, but the whole industry is new for us. So it's a little bit easier to be that challenger, but that also makes it a little bit easier to raid the couch cushions when you need to. There's just like an internal risk tolerance for it.
Love it. Jen?
I would build on what you shared, Malgosia. Necessity is the mother of invention. When you don't have the luxury of, padded budgets and extra headcount, you also don't have the luxury of ideating indefinitely. And I think it's created an absolute focus. And the constraints allow for problem solving in a way that we have to have exceptional clarity on what's the job to be done. And let's put our eggs in that basket and let's try things. Let's fail fast. If we're going to fail, let's learn, let's build. And I think we've built like a really nice rhythm in how we're taking those steps forward, trying new things. But you can't ideate for 6 months at a time. You've got to decide, commit, go, learn, and build.
Jen, I think that's super right. Just a thread that you pulled. You have to have a really good brief. Mm-hmm. Like I think the criticality of briefing is, I know it's always talked about, but it's still somehow understated, right? Like you gotta have a good brief. You gotta know what you're trying to do and who you're trying to do it with and clearly explain that, or you get lost in that perpetual cycle of ideation because you're like, oh, it's like Baskin Robbins 31 flavors. You're like, oh, that could be cool. Oh, that could be cool. And if you don't get there, to get there faster, you really gotta know what you want and what you're trying to do.
Totally agree.
I'd like to close on that thought. Budget constraints is the mother of creativity. Thank you so much.